I think Bitcoin is 100% going to go from 100,000 to 1 million within 10 years. Stop yelling about real estate. Stop whining about how you can't afford real estate. And instead, take your energy and just go buy Bitcoin. That's kind of my view. You know, like you don't realize how lucky you are to get in on Bitcoin. Even at 100,000, you are so lucky to get in on Bitcoin. I'm more bullish on the ETFs than I am on anything else. I think that's going to be, for sure, is going to be the biggest driver going forward, is BlackRock.
Fred Krueger makes a bold prediction. Bitcoin is not just going to break $100,000, but will likely soar to $1 million within the next decade. For him, this isn't just speculation. It's a calculated belief rooted in Bitcoin's fundamentals, scarcity, and growing institutional adoption. He emphasizes that even entering the Bitcoin market at $100,000 is a stroke of luck for investors. Given its potential to become a globally dominant store of value, Krueger warns against distraction from other investment opportunities, like real estate, which often overshadow Bitcoin's transformative potential. Instead, he advises redirecting focus toward accumulating Bitcoin, a horse he believes will win the race for long-term wealth preservation.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
The one thing I think where everybody gets things wrong is not trying to figure out exactly which horse to run. The horses are pretty clear. The problem is people need to stick with the horse for a long period of time, right? That's more important. So to me, I think I'm pretty happy with, like, if you want to be involved in MSCR, go ahead. I'm not going to knock you for doing it, right?
Of course.
And I won't even say that I wouldn't play again, that somehow it goes down and I decide to buy a little bit more. But for me, the meaningful position I have is Bitcoin itself. I just think Bitcoin itself is the more interesting long-term thing. And my main thing is I just want to, and why am I on Bitcoin Spaces, and why, because I've thought about this, why do us as a group love to hang out and talk about this stuff? And I think what it is we're all there for one reason. We want to convince ourselves and build conviction about our asset, right? Yeah. We all have so much of our savings and our time and our energy that's focused on this one asset, right? And so we all feel like it's kind of like a little bit like we've got this tree that we planted, and it's a little spruce right now, and it's going to grow up, or it's like a kid that you raise who's like 5, and you're measuring the kid's height every year, against this, like, you say, oh, you grew a little bit this year, you know what I mean? But like, I feel like we're watching this thing grow, right? And I feel like we want to talk about our kid or our tree a lot. We're very obsessed with this thing that's growing, right? We want it to continue to grow. We don't want the government to take our tree and chop it down. We don't want, somebody to kidnap our kid. We want to keep it. We want to keep it secure. You should never be 100% in Bitcoin.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is you never know what's going to happen in life, right?
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do is you don't want to get in a car accident, and all of a sudden let's just say you have $100,000 worth of Bitcoin, right? And you're in this car accident, you need to borrow $50,000 worth of Bitcoin. Except now the problem is we also went into a bear market, and your $100,000 of Bitcoin is only worth $50,000.
Price dropped, yeah.
Okay, so guess what? Now you have to sell all your Bitcoin to pay for your car accident, right? Now that's not smart, right? So if you had $30,000 of cash and $70,000 of Bitcoin, well, you'd only have to sell, a third of your Bitcoin, and you could use the cash, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just having a buffer of cash is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think managing this thing automatically. So, I keep on going back to something like a 70% Bitcoin or 80% Bitcoin is kind of where you should max out and keep the rest in liquid thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look, if Bitcoin maybe hits another really big bear market, then you can buy more, right? With that, you know what I mean? If Bitcoin keeps on going up, well, great. You just take some off the table and you've now got a bigger cash position, but you're still 70, 80% in Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So I think both of those things kind of make sense. And, I've thought about it enough, and you can even model it out mathematically, and it tends to have like really good properties.
Beyond its financial implications, Krueger sees Bitcoin as a tool for personal growth. Long-term holders develop patience, discipline, and composure, qualities that extend beyond investing. This calmness stems from a fundamental belief in Bitcoin's value. Even during market downturns, he contrasts this mindset with the frenetic behavior of day traders who often chase short-term gains at the expense of long-term wealth. For Krueger, Bitcoin investing is not just about profit, but about cultivating a mindset that fosters resilience and long-term thinking.
We are going to see a bear market in the next 3 to 4 years, I think. It's possible we don't, right? But I think if I had to guess, having lived through 2 of these things myself, they were very, very painful. 2018 was incredibly painful. 2022 was also horribly painful, right? And having lived through those bear markets, I think we may not get one as bad as 2022, but all markets do have bear markets. Now, I think when we do have the next bear market, and I don't know what will drive it, I don't know. I don't especially know if we can predict when it's going to be, right? And but I think in that bear market, what are people going to sell first? MSTR or the Bitcoin that they have in cold storage?
MSTR.
Right. They're going to sell MSTR, right? So if they're sitting on MSTR and MSTR is trading in a multiple of 3 or 4 or even 2, they're going to be like, well, I'm going to get rid of this first, right? It's like it's run by Saylor. He might get some liquidated. He might have some margin calls, whatever. If I got my Bitcoin in cold storage, well, that I know. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Great. I have a framework for dealing with a bear market in my ledger, right?
Right.
So I think they're going to sell the MSTR, and I think they'll sell it down to where it starts becoming a bargain, right? Like you don't go from rich to sort of rich. You go from rich to cheap, right? Now, what's cheap? Well, cheap might be, 30% underneath fair value, right? That might be cheap, right?
Yeah.
And, we know what that looks like because we can look at GBTC, right? And GBTC was trading at, 45% under its net asset value back in January of 2023, right? I know because I bought a bunch in January of 2023.
Right.
And it was an incredibly good buy. Fixed number of Bitcoin that that you have those Bitcoin and with very high likelihood, the value of those Bitcoin is not going to go down. In fact, it's probably going to go up quite a bit. That really will change the way you lead your life, I think.
Yeah.
And I think everybody I know who's a Bitcoiner, you can tell that they've got a little bit more calm and composure because they fundamentally know, even if the market's going down, they fundamentally know, if you've been hodling for a couple years, right? You can tell that it's like the guy's more calm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, and you're not sitting there trying to make trade and do this and do that, and so I feel like it's a really, really good personal character builder, I think.
Yeah.
And I think it's a small number of Bitcoiners who've got this, It's like, for example, I feel the same way about drinking. Like, I don't drink either, right? And
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, you know, if I see people who are drinking a lot, I'm like, well, you know, you're missing out on really a lot, because, you know, you're half the time you're completely buzzed, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like, I think if you've got the Bitcoin religion, it'll take you to a lot of great places in life. And that's kind of I really believe that, you know. Now, if you bought it but you don't really have the religion and you haven't studied it enough, you know, you're probably going to make the worst possible decision.
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to probably sell it at the absolute low.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the developing the conviction level is maybe even more important than actually having the Bitcoin. It's very important to really understand the conviction, really understand the asset, really get it, really understand exactly what it is. I'm more bullish on the ETFs than I am on anything else. I think that's going to be, for sure, is going to be the biggest driver going forward, is BlackRock. BlackRock is such a great salesman. And, you know, they've got the perfect product. I mean, IBIT is the perfect product, and so is BTC. And I'm friends with the guys at Fidelity too. And I love Fidelity. I think Fidelity is great. I love their platform. I think that, just a shout out if anybody from Fidelity Digital Assets is listening, I think they're great. And I love the fact they do their own custody and they don't outsource it to Coinbase. And that's great.
Yeah.
I love everything Fidelity's doing, and I have big respect for that. But I also have a lot of respect for Larry Fink and BlackRock.
Fred Krueger's insights highlight Bitcoin's unique position as both a financial asset and a philosophical movement. He underscores the importance of conviction, education, and a balanced strategy, urging investors to think long-term while preparing for the inevitable ups and downs of market cycles. With institutional adoption on the rise and Bitcoin's fundamentals stronger than ever, the future looks bright for those who embrace its potential.
Please like and subscribe my channel.